and I've advised people on podcasts for years now and stuff, because I used to be a part of a group called Podcast Indie. That was another indie based group that pandemic basically killed that one. It was like in-person meeting stuff. But my thing with people is like, you're gonna have to love doing what you're doing, because if you're in this to like just go with money and stuff like that, like a lot of people jump in like, wanting to make that year's salary based off their podcast. I'm like, would you pay yourself this much to do it? Like, that's what I'm a constantly imposter syndrome second guess myself, because I'm always like, I wouldn't pay for me, but and I always wonder that. But my thing is like, I love doing it, and the goals I have with it, I guess, are different than others. I'm in it for the work, the opportunities, the network, like being here with you guys, like that's great stuff.
They're off in the Kentucky Derby.
Interest of the greater good for me to smoke a joint and calm down.
Greatest. He'll fall an eight to prove that I'm great. And if he keeps talking jive, I'm going to cut it to 5.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Ville Chillin podcast. Today, we have with us Brandon Peters of the Brandon Peters Show.
Hello.
How you doing, man? Everything good?
Yeah, pretty good.
All right. So we met you when you ended up inviting us to PopCon, right? Mm-hmm. And we thought, hey, that really cool event. You did an awesome job, like running it and everything. We were excited to be there. So thanks for reaching out and inviting us for one. And we just thought, hey, make a perfect, guest for the show.
It was an awesome experience.
Hey, no problem. I'd like to hear that. Like I with the one you're talking about was the Louisville show, and I really was hoping to get some new and local flavor to the podcast stage for that one. So I was really happy you guys, because a lot of people feel weary about it, but you guys were like, boom, yeah, let's do it. So I really like that.
Awesome. Yeah, we had been wondering, or like kind of trying to dabble or figure out how to get into like a live show anyways, and like where to do it. So it was kind of perfect timing. It was kind of the next step, and it was really cool. So,
yeah.
But this show isn't definitely about us. It's about you and who you are. So you want to introduce yourself a little bit, what you do?
Sure. I'm Brandon Peters, the host and creator and all things Brandon Peters Show. Which is now in its 5th year. I've been doing podcasting for about 12.
Wow.
But I made my show like
awesome.
Pandemic did weird things to all of us, but I canceled my old show. Canceling is in the act of just stop doing a show, not that anything obscene happened and people didn't want to be a part of it anymore. That kind of canceling. But I wanted to move into an avenue that was nicheless almost, after being I did a show, it's called Cult Cinema Cavalcade for 5 years. And it was a popular show, but like I wanted to do other things. And I decided to make one just named after me. So as long as I show up,
yeah,
I'm not off topic. But so I have my own show, which is very entertainment, movie based. I'm a film snob. I've been doing film criticism for many moons, longer than podcasting. And I try to wrap my. I also have been a reviewer for Blu-rays and DVDs for many years. I was a site called Why So Blue from 2013 to 2023, and incorporate that some into my podcast, my YouTube channel. And before that, I was a DVD and Blu-ray quality control tester out in Burbank, California for 4 years, doing that crap. So that the home video physical media thing is all me, all mine. I love doing it and stuff. Before this, I was checking notes on a Nightmare on Elm Street 4K with some sound cues that people were questioning about earlier today when I posted my review. So, but I do that. Yeah, that's what I like to do is basically a lot of film stuff, but I'm also into the podcasting scene. A member of a group called just formed this year called Podcasting, which is IN, like the state of Indiana podcasting. And it's just like a group from different avenues of podcast, because podcasting is everything. It's, movies, TV for me, but for other people, it's politics, it's books, it's cooking, it's true crime, you know.
That's definitely a big one.
Yeah. So we've got a group that's come together from different markets, of people in the local TV stations, people in politics, people coming together to try to just like create more community sense of podcasting in Indianapolis, and the state, ideally. So people know that they're not like alone. There's other people. There's networking to help people get better with things. So that just started this year. And then, of course, I've been with PopCon. I've been doing PopCon since I think 2016, but I've been officially on part of the crew of PopCon since 2023. But I was doing a lot more than just showing up there before that. But it was kind of like a finally thing. I had been running the podcast stage for a couple years prior to it, and then they finally were like, you know what, let's just make him the guy to do that. So I do that, and then in the Indianapolis show we have the podcast awards too, which is our award show for podcasting, which I am the commissioner of, and I do judging and pull in the podcast for that. So they keep busy, I guess. I don't know.
Definitely a lot going on, a lot of avenues. So you said you've been podcasting for, say, 12 years, 13 years?
12 years, I believe, this year. I think, in first podcast ever I did was guested on a show, which I still guest to this day, at least once a month on, called Out Now with Aaron and Abe. It's a primarily a new releases movie show, but we do a film commentary once a month, which I'm on. I've been on every one since that day in 2012. It was From Russia with Love was the commentary, the James Bond movie. I had been blogging and started a retrospective series of essays about James Bond leading up to Skyfall. They reached out. They're like, hey, we've been really enjoying your articles. Would you like to come on do that? And I've done that, and I've been it really helped launch me into podcasting, that show. So I've been there with Aaron Newirth and Abe Moa. They've created it, I think, a year before that, my guest spot there. But I've been on there ever since. And then I had some shows. I think we started the Ichabod Cranecast was my first official show. And it was following the Sleepy Hollow TV show on Fox. And then
that was a good show.
Yeah. Well, I liked the first season a lot. And then it was me, Aaron Newirth from Out and Out There Name, and Maxwell Haddad. He is a Tony Award winner now. Maxwell is. He produced a production in New York, and it won a Tony for best show, and he got a Tony for it. He's a really good film mind himself, but we watched the first season. We loved it. And then season 2, we weren't quite on board with. And I think because we finished that, in the season 3, we're just like, you know what? We're nice guys, and we don't want to sit and hate watch a show and be negative every week or fake positivity. So we let our audience know we're done. And then we did one when 24 came back for a mini series run with Jack Bauer. And we got together, did that show. And then I started Cult Cinema Cavalcade at some point around there.
Gotcha. That's a lot. So I guess at this point, with all of the film and stuff, there's probably not many things you haven't seen, are there?
There's still plenty. I am still.
Really?
I'm always digging. I'm always finding. I find whenever I do my every year I have we have our top films of the year list. One of the things I always include, which is my little niche that I do, my first film I list, and it's not in the top 10, is my best new to me movie of the past year. So it's a movie that, it's been out or something, but I finally saw it this year or something like that, and I loved it and was like, oh wow. So there's past one, like this movie I saw last year. It was with Elliot Gould. It was really very Hitchcockian. The Silent Partner. That's what it's called, from the 1970s. It's a guy who I know we're not doing the Silent Partner podcast right now, but this movie's cool. Elliot Gould's a bank teller in the mall, and he's going over it's old, when you used to do the credit card, they go like and there'd be the imprint. Well, he's going over and he looks on this imprint, and it's like saying like hand over all your money in your register or something like that. And he's like, what in the world? And then so he's on the lookout for who's was possibly going to rob him, and ends up being like the mall Santa. And then he comes up with a scheme to let the guy rob but take money himself at the same time so he wouldn't get caught and then turn over the robber. And he pulls it off, but then the robber gets away and he sees on the news how much was stolen, and he's like, that's not how much was in my bag. So he knows the teller like stole more. He did something too, so he like stalks and goes after the guy. So it's a really cool movie.
That definitely sounds interesting, especially from that time period. Some of those older movies are such a different time, but I love those older movies.
How do you guys decide? How do you decide the movies that you're going to critique or review? Like, is that something like suggestions from the audience or like friends and family?
So on my show, when I started it, I wanted to. I'm part of critic circles, film writers, stuff like that, and they get like a bad rap like by all like a lot of the franchise or comic book fan, like, oh, they don't like movies. I'm like, these people love movies more than you can imagine just because they're not putting them up at your top fan. So I wanted to highlight the writers and stuff. So I always, and creators like that I knew as well. So I always brought them on, and I'd want to, the first year or so, introduce my audience to who this person is. So interview them. And then they pick a film that's like an odd favorite of theirs to discuss, because you can really see who the person is and their mindset and stuff, and where they see of this odd movie, like, and you also get a film recommendation from somebody that you might not have seen before. So that was my kind of what I did my first year. And then I didn't realize it at the time, but after like a year and a half, it was like, oh wait, I was auditioning people for later stuff I wanted to do, because if it's my name, the show can evolve. But my bread and butter for the show, what it's become and my most popular thing, is my Summer of series, which started 3 years ago with Scott Mendelson, who was of Forbes and he was of the Wrap, and now he writes for Puck News and he has the Outside Scoop. He's a box office celebrity. If you know about box office, you know about Scott. But we started when I turned 40 in 1982 in 2022, and I was like, you know what? I kind of want to go over I had this idea to go over the summer of movies that year, because it was a big summer. It was like E.T., Wrath of Khan, The Thing, Blade Runner, Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, like all these movies. And I didn't want to just like talk straight up the movie. So what I set up, the format was we'd go, each episode would be that weekend at the box office, and we would have little discussions about those movies. But the idea was, what was that week like for a person going to see like Conan the Barbarian? What happened in their life that week? So I picked news stories that were happening that week that we talk about. And then like, these are all in between the movie conversations. And then we talk about what the top 10 rated shows on television were that week. We talk about what the top 10 songs on the Casey Kasem top 40 were that week. And at the end, we talk the box office of that week too. So it's not just like two white dudes talking about movies every week. It's kind of like, I want it to be the pop culture experience of someone, like when they went and saw that movie. And then on Fridays during the summer, we talk a music video that came out that time that was in the top 10, and I have a rotating bit of different guests for that. So we've done summer of 82 at 40, we did 93 at 30, and we just wrapped 2004 at 20. So next summer we're doing 2015 at 10. So that's what's coming next summer.
That's pretty cool. I'd seen those videos, kind of looking at your YouTube channel, and I saw that, and I was kind of wondering what all went into that, because it's definitely so many different topics, right? There's so much, so much that you cover. So, but like you said, you kind of moved away from so niche, and I gave yourself to include anything and everything, which is cool.
Yeah, I mean, another thing I do is like just to show how wildly different and keeping it entertainment I do is a writer, he's from the Saturday Evening Post, Troy Brownfield, and I have this series called Products of the Panic, where we take a look at things that happened during the 80s satanic panic era in the media that they were feeding us back then. Like we talk about this 60-minute special that was like all about how evil Dungeons and Dragons is and stuff like that, and we kind of analyze and look at that as well. So that's how different the show can be.
Yeah, just so many different things. That's
like what comes to mind, almost like the old VH1 documentaries. Like I love the 80s and I love the 90s.
yeah.
I used to love those. So like you describing like kind of, it sounds like you're painting a picture for your audience, really like putting them in those eras.
And I try to find like when I'm editing and stuff, like I gleefully look up for my, so when to segue between things, like for movie trailers, I primarily try to look up TV spots, like the little third, because they mostly have audio with like a descriptor or something like that. So when you're listening, it makes sense. And it's not like ominous for 30 seconds. But like it kind of gives a vibe of that. And then they'll be like, now coming to Lakewood theaters this Friday, have that little guy's voice or something like that. And I get a little nostalgic tinge for that too myself. But I throw in, and I'll throw in like TV commercials and stuff like that as well.
It's awesome. Like you said, it's very, it transports you back in time a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
For sure.
So, I kind of want to talk about the website. I guess that's when you talked about blogging, the Why So Blue.
Yeah.
Was that the blog that kind of got everything started when you got invited to that first podcast, or was it?
No, I started writing for Why So Blue like a year later. So I started out with blogging. Scott Mendelson, who I mentioned, he at the time before Forbes picked him up, he was writing a website called Mendelson's Memos. And Scott and I go way back. He was, when I first moved to Los Angeles, California, he was my first new friend I had. Like I knew one person there, but like he was my first like new friend, and he was writing for a place called Valley Scene magazine, and he would take me as his +1 to like critic screenings all the time, and I would get to see things way before and in weird places. Like I saw Match Point on the DreamWorks lot. I saw a what is it, World Trade Center. I saw with the B-cast screening and the Paramount lot. Saw this one movie, Hollywoodland. I saw in like this like, it looked like a rich man's room or something. And there was like a famous comedian that ended up like committing suicide like a year later that was in that screening.
Wow.
I was like, I sat next to him at that movie. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
So he was writing a blog called Mendelson's Memos, and he's like, hey, he took a job at like a legal firm, and he's like, I don't have time to write as much as I used to. Would you be able to like feed me like a piece or two a week to help me like keep things running? And yeah, sure. Because I've been meaning to get in the groove of like writing and everything. And so I did that. They hit off well. He asked me to keep going, and then he got hired by Forbes, and it was like, so I have to shut down the site because Forbes has this exclusivity to like all my future writings. And he's like, and well, he offered like me to have the site, and I'm like, no one's coming to Mendelson's Memos for Peter's points. Like, no. So I was like, I'm gonna get off my butt. I'm gonna start my own. So I created my blog, Naptown Nerd.
Okay.
And after a month of Naptown Nerd, I got picked up by Why So Blue. And one of my goals with writing was I'd like to get back in the Blu-ray review. Well, I'd done testing, but I'd like to get in the review biz and get free copies of those, and that'd be cool and stuff because I collect, and hit right away with that. The Aaron Newerth helped very much with that one. Introduced me to Brian White, who's the owner of it, and I did an audition for him. I had an interview and audition with a couple reviews. So then I became like their most prolific writer that I just took on. Like I crunched it through, and he's like, I don't know how you do this, but I just did. And by the time, gosh, I can't remember how many reviews I had amassed when I resigned from there last December. It was a lot, but I had many cool things. Like I had John Carpenter tweeted out my Thing review. And he had like the way he did it. I knew he had to actually go in and read the thing to tweet it the way he did. So I was like, whoa, John Carpenter read my words. Woo, very
Awesome.
cool. And then like I had a big moment where I had like the first review up for the Halloween 6 producer's cut, which went all around the nerd stuff because I had the first images of that wasn't like a ratty VHS tape. And then I wrote, speaking of Halloween, and we're in October, I wrote an article that was basically the home video history of the Halloween movies. And I met through that Katie Reif at the time. And she wanted to talk to me about that. And that became the top story, headline story for Halloween on the AV Club that year. So that was cool.
Really cool.
The only thing I'm still bitter with Katie about, because she's a good friend of mine now and stuff. But the article said an expert's guide to Halloween, and the on home video was only about the first Halloween, but the picture for the article was from Halloween 4, and Twitter went nuts with
Tore it
poking
apart.
fun. I'm like, I didn't pick the picture. I didn't pick the picture. I was on the phone being interviewed. Like I didn't pick the picture. But I was like, it was like the best thing, and then wow with it too. But
hey, the engagement was insane though. You know, that's how
yeah.
like,
Getting shit on's good. Yeah. That was good. So it happens, but
I'd love to correct you. So I mean, I'm perfect.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's awesome. How many so for I guess first, do you buy the movies that you're reviewing?
No.
Okay.
They send studios or a marketing firm sends them to me.
Gotcha. How many movies do you have now, do you think?
Right. We noticed on the a little bit of your collection on some of your videos on YouTube, and there's a lot.
I think it's the background of the Naptown Nerd. There's some there, So
I have 3,826 movies on Blu-ray. I'm 995 on 4K Ultra HD, so I'm getting close to 1,000 there. DVD, I have 826 because that's as I upgrade, I kind of get rid of things, and then on digital, 1,142.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's a lot of movies, man.
I watch them all every day, all the time.
So how do you accumulate that? Like, is that something that you've just done over however many years?
Reviews have amassed a lot of it, and then because I get stuff for review, it led me to doors of buying stuff that I didn't know I would want to buy or anything like that. So, and then like when something upgrades, I can sell, and then sometimes like I get like review copies of movies that like I might not want. And like I'll do the review and stuff, but then I might sell it later, and then I use that in a pot. My wife likes that because I'll use that in a pot to spend on other ones because I'm still buying, but I'm also getting them for review and things like that. And but like as cool as it sounds, like you got that, you get them for free. I'm like, if I worked out how much I was making like per hour on how much it costs versus how much time I spent on it. It's probably pretty sad. Probably cheaper to just buy it, but it's probably like I probably make like 50 cents an hour or something like that. But
oh man,
like that's it's this time spent and things like that. But I've also transitioned from writing to doing them just on my YouTube channel, and that's been a lot of fun. I've gotten a lot more interaction and stuff with people via my videos than I was in writing a lot. And a lot of that's gone down. Like and I get less than I used to. There's a lot they have a lot less sending out and stuff just because it's, not the popular thing anymore to do because everybody was streaming. And I've tried doing like the one thing I don't want, like I get codes to like, hey, will you review our movie, the digital version? I'm like, you realize everybody's internet's different, so their experience watching this is you can't review, and none of those. Whenever I've tried, the numbers are just garbage. I did Twisters just to see what would happen, and it was 11 views after like a month. I'm like, yeah.
I see your point there with everybody's internet being.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are watching on 720, some people have 4K. You don't really know, and you could only at that point review your experience with it. You can't really tell people what to expect,
right? I can be like, well, bonus features, we can talk about those, but
right, what comes to mind is like the new PlayStation coming out or the new upgrade, and you're watching on YouTube, you're not going to be able to tell the difference on the screen on like the A and B. Like,
well, that's why I love people like they'll like. There's these, so like the Blu-ray.com message boards, which are not the biggest fans of me. I can't go. I used to go on there back in the day and love it, but then like I started seeing my reviews get put on there, and them coming up with, they came up with the wildest stories about me that I was like, what? I know it's not true, but and it's just hurtful stuff that they post on there. But they will go off of like somebody's screen cap or something. I'm like, that's not even emotion. Like, you should look at it in motion,
right,
before making this judgment call. This is like, I'm not cancel my pre-order. Like, what if it didn't bother you as much as this guy? Like, it's just a weird tribal sense of craziness that goes on in this. I mean, even this niche community of physical media collecting, but they're hardcore, and they will. I mean, I don't. They do things that matter. Like they did. I mean, I want to believe that they helped get the. There's a new 4K Ultra HD release of Dario Argento's opera, and the color was off. Just it was a bit off a bit, and like the Severin Films first said, no, it's not. It's fine, and then they looked at it like, actually, no. Here, your replacement disc will be coming in a month. It's like, yeah, okay.
Gotcha, yeah.
So they can't point to that when something's really wrong, but there are some little things sometimes that don't matter that they throw up a tizzy about. And
Internet can be such
yeah,
echo chamber of nonsense sometimes if people jumping on bandwagons or just taking.
right. I have 2 kids. I have my son who's into film stuff, and like he'll go on his like TikToks and reels, and this guy. So I'm like, what do you think? I want to like, I can tell when he comes at me with an opinion that wasn't formed by him. I'm like, all right, what the guy said, and like, what did you think about it? Like, that's what matters. Like what you like, and I always there was, we went and saw Joker Folie à Deux this past weekend. He's like, oh, it hurt so bad. I go, what if we're the 2 guys that like it? Like what does that matter? Like, we got something we like. What if we're the 2 guys that I always go into something like that. My friend Maranzio told me recently, he's like, the thing I like about you is different than everybody else. He's like, you want to like the things. Like you try, you go in with an open mind and you want to like it. And even if you don't like it, you're still pointing out value to it. And I'm like, yeah, that's what we should do. I love movies. Like that's my favorite thing. Like I want to like movies. Like that's how we roll. And negativity is so easy to find everywhere. Like that's boring to me. Like, all right.
And it sells. It's easy to go that route too. People, so kudos to you for pointing out that positivity. It
can be do one of those like thumbnails where you're like, it's like Joker 2 is out. And I can't like, and I've noticed like the internet and stuff, and I do this too, but we're human and stuff, and we tend to like jump on and just copy. That's all we do. And I've noticed that with like the reel and TikTok makers, a lot of the times they'll find one thing that went popular and just keep doing the one thing. Like I saw a funny video of a guy, he's a comedian. He had the audio from like one of those like late night from the 90s, like compilation CDs where the guy's like, and you get 90 hits and more. And he would wear different wigs for the people. And he had like a spatula as the microphone. It was just, lip syncing to his funny. And then I went to his page. That's all he does. Different versions of the commercials and different stuff. It's like, oh, that's tiring. I would want to do something new.
Well, and
but
that's another
his engagement. If one of them pops here, the other pops here, the other, but
Well, and doing that, I would imagine, like you said, he would probably get bored or something like that. But that was going to be another question we want to ask you is, how do you stay so consistent? You've been doing this so long. Like
you gotta love it. One thing I don't do. The only thing I see numbers wise is my YouTube channel. I leave my I have a producer, Brad Shoemaker. He basically he does my website and he distributes the podcast wherever all the pod streams are. And all I tell him is I want this or I don't need to see numbers. But he's with this new show. He's been enthusiastically thumbs up a lot. So most of the time, and I don't want something to make me go, oh, I need to stop doing what I enjoy doing to move to this because this is, I always want to be doing what I'm doing. I'd probably be more successful if I was maybe paying attention to things. Like I've found too that social media does not equate listeners, does not equate viewers, subscribe. Like I want the people, more importantly, like I want the people that actually listen, engage with my show, like it, and stuff like that. I don't care if I'd rather have like 20 followers and 18 of them pay attention to every episode than 1,002, because it's just empty. And I think businesses and marketing people have finally figured out that, oh, wait, just because they have like a page with thousands of likes and stuff like that doesn't mean that it's translating into extra sales or anything like that. Because there are people I just see on begging, please go like my page, go like my. I don't even say like and subscribe at the end of my stuff. But
what's up, everybody? We just wanted to take a quick pause and say, if you haven't already, make sure to like and subscribe. Drop us a couple comments. Let us know what you like, what you don't, and let us know what you think about the video. And make sure to share out with your friends and family. It really helps us a lot.
Yeah, we're on every social media platform. We're on every podcast provider out there. So whenever you get a chance, just give us a like, give us a follow. We definitely appreciate it. It really helps us out.
And with that, we'll get right back to it.
But because I was like, you're here, you want like, you know, I have a page, you're here, like, you know how to find it now, you know, this and stuff. And yeah, I just want you to like it. I want you to listen to it, engage it, and that's what keeps me going. Is I want to be doing this. I've advised people on podcasts for years now and stuff, because I used to be a part of a group called Podcast Indie. That was another indie based group that pandemic basically killed that one. It was like in-person meeting stuff. But my thing with people is like, you're gonna have to love doing what you're doing, because if you're in this to like just go with money and stuff like that, like a lot of people who jump in like, wanting to make that year's salary based off their podcast. I'm like, would you pay yourself this much to do it? Like, that's what I'm a constantly imposter syndrome second guess myself, because I'm always like, I wouldn't pay for me. But and I always wonder that. But my thing is like, I love doing it. And the goals I have with it, I guess, are different than others. I'm in it for the work, the opportunities, the network, like being here with you guys, like that's great stuff. Doing the PopCon thing, doing PopCon stuff and like doing that stuff rather than, that's what keeps me driving. I still on the side, I work to make a nice check for myself, and I do this stuff on the side. If this stuff were to take over completely, and it's not like I don't have gigs that don't pay or anything like that, but they're not enough to sustain just this. But like I like meeting the people, collaborating with people, pulling off these ideas because I want to, because they're mine, because I guess control freak it, but it's my show, my thing, like that. And just to get the word of like podcasting taken seriously, take it to another level, and not just like get people to listen to more than just like, oh, my favorite celebrity has a podcast. So, because there's a lot of good quality stuff out there.
See so much of that now, like every celebrity, anybody who's has started a podcast thinking that it's off, and it's not that easy for sure. Ones that people do already has a cult following, essentially, those do pretty well. But if you just have an idea for a show and just, I'm going to start this, and it's just, it doesn't happen that easy, and that happens at all. I definitely, I agree with you there. I agree. I've said it before on imposter syndrome. Like I get it all the time. Like, what am I really doing? Like, what am I really doing? And should I really be doing this? And at the end of the day, like you said, you do it because you want to. So, and we find, as you do it, the networking piece is fun, and as you meet, and get invited to different things like PopCon, it kind of reinvigorates. That was such a cool experience, and it's like, I can do this. I'm not an imposter. Yes. So,
and absolutely. And I think that's one of my things with the podcast stage is I want people, like, because for years that thing like was a lot cooler sounding than it was. Like I it used to be, when I first went, it was like in a food court. When we were in the Indianapolis Convention Center, it was in a food court. And I went to do my live show, and I was so excited. I was like, this is going to be awesome. It's in a food court. And then there's like these people already on stage. This guy, because I go up and I'm like, is there someone I'm supposed to check in with? Like, what's going on? And they're no, like, hey, just when you get up here, just hit record and just go, hit stop. And, okay. Like, there's no one. All right. Then the next year, like, similar story, but my producer Brad ran the computer by it, so there was a human monitoring it, but it was in food court, and these people started changing ice during our podcast, and I'm like, and then like if you were sitting in the food court, the speakers hit a dead zone, and people couldn't hear well, and then it just looked like a lot of times when you went to PopCon, it just looked like this table in the corner, and like sound was coming out of it and stuff, and back in like 2021. They forgot a lot of stuff for it. And I set up in the lobby. I sent this podcast lounge is what I called it. And I set up I found these couches in the convention center. I set them up, table and stuff. And you had it looked like a loungy setup, and it attracted people pretty good at that one. And the next year they gave me a stage. There was a stage made for something else that fell through, and they gave it to me for the podcast stage. And that was like, people were coming to the podcast and sitting there because it looked like something was going on. And from there, it was handed to me, and I kept saying, put it in the vendor hall. That makes a difference. People are already in there. They could stop. It looks better. Then I got the back. They got them to find them. They made a backdrop, a signage. I'm like, it needs to look like PopCon sponsors this. It needs to look like it's an event. And it's been going good since. And I've had, for a couple of years in a row now, I've had 0 no-shows to the podcast stage, which used to happen a lot. Just a lot of different variety, full people signing up. The indie one's getting harder to sign up for and be a part of. I had a waiting list at Indianapolis PopCon back in April. We had 3 or 4 podcasts waiting for someone to drop off, and no one dropped off. Just been trying to make it a fun thing for people who come to PopCon, a fun thing for people who are podcasters. I want them to feel like rock stars, it's a whole new avenue experience to meet, to share your show with an audience. People find out about you, just getting out there and being able to speak in public, and it's great.
And I can say it was awesome. Yeah, it was a really, it was definitely really cool. Had a few people walking by and just needed somewhere to sit, and they just they just sit down because there's chairs, and end up sharing a little bit with them. Now, does that automatically convert to listeners? Maybe not, but it's still really cool. That little bit of exposure. This time at Brad, the wrestler that came with us, Bradzilla, and him being trying to talk to the other guy. I think he was working. That was just really cool having that. Definitely not something I expected to happen right there.
Yeah, you guys had one of the best visual moments, but I think captured well on audio with the slap.
Yes, the chop, dude. He got chopped. Yeah,
chop. That was good.
Yeah, it was kind of it was really a joke at first when I think Bradzilla is the one who kind of brought it up to. I think he was just joking. He didn't expect us to actually do it. So he was like, is this okay? Am I going to get arrested? And so, that was really awesome.
No, you guys are great. I was really hoping that yours would get back to me, because I was like, okay, this is straight up Louisville. You guys highlight things going on there. And then you brought 2 other local flavors with you, and that's exactly what I was hoping for Louisville. I was trying to get a bourbon podcast to come too, because that's very, very much the state of Kentucky, and they were just hesitant about it. We don't think we fit in. I'm like, you'll fit in. Trust me. It's
I think you were saying collectors. I mean, it's perfect.
Yeah.
There are people lined up outside liquor stores here whenever one of the collector bottles drop. They're just lined out of a liquor world. It's right. It would have been perfect.
And I one of my few things I've ever written that's been in print was a article I wrote about for corporate-based human resources and why they'd be good for your small market company. I don't know shit about that. I had to do research. Someone paid me to do it, and it went in some retailer's guide thing, and the person just loved my writing. I was like, okay, I know you'll do it good. I just do. And I'm like, all right. So I did. They loved it. They said it went well, and their boss liked it. Their company liked it, and it got printed, shipped. And I'm like, wow. That's of all the. I think it was my first thing in print. And I was like, okay, well, there we go, back to movies. But yeah, like you never know. Like, and if somebody was like, hey, we're the Hayseeds Grassroots and Farm Company, and we'd like to come do a live podcast, I'll do it. I don't know what that is, and I probably will do my show, but like if I can do it, the opportunity arises itself, and they're good people to you, then give it a chance. Don't say no. Like, there's different avenues for everything. Like, why not? And I was like, bourbon. And like the owner of PopCon, when I told him about that, started showing me all this like bourbon stuff he had collected. I'm like, yeah, this is why I thought bourbon would go good, but they didn't want to do it. I talked to one of them didn't get back to me at all, and one I had some back and forth, and then they ghosted me. So, I just I'm pretty. You guys know, like I try to give you like every possible detail you could want to know before getting there, and then I didn't find out till Sunday. None of my passes I gave you guys came with like QR codes or something. There was some problem with that. Like, you can tell your people. I'm like, I don't make the passes. I just tell someone to give them passes. The person gives them.
I think ours had QR codes. Yeah.
Oh, okay. There was something with the one. I know there was something that I wasn't told about till Sunday after when we were closing down about all the passes I had for podcasters. So I was like, oh, well, okay. So maybe they fixed that by the time you guys got there.
I don't know. It worked for us. We got right in. It was really cool. I really liked the passes too, because my daughter was there with us, of course, and being 5, and she got the Geekling pass. I thought that was really cool.
Those are
it was funny.
Those are good. I have a Geekling. So like the Geekling passes at Indy ran out, and the PopCon crew people and volunteers tend to try to collect all the passes and stuff after the whole thing's over, and there were no Geekling ones, but my kids came and had them, so I had a Geekling pass. So I was pretty that rare collectible PopCon nerdy item there. That
hey, I kept them. I definitely kept them. I think it's a cool memento. Of course, there's the video object to add.
Absolutely.
I'll always know that my daughter was there for that.
There you go.
And I was actually really proud. She did good. She started getting a little rambunctious at the end, but after 50 minutes, I don't blame her. So.
No, I get you. Yeah.
So, I guess kind of continuing on that theme, you said you haven't had cancellation. What did you do when you have cancellation?
I had to fill in, just come up with something. So like I would just run around. I would run around to. It kind of started. My friend James T. Wolfgar. He runs Wolfgar Props. He makes like screen accurate props and costumes and look like he does cosplay. And I was like, it was actually PopCon Fort Wayne. So there's a PopCon Fort Wayne that happened in December of 2018. It was a 2-day one. And this is when I first started really taking control of the podcast stage a bit, because my producer couldn't go. They told me, hey, back then I would have a booth for Podcast Indie, and then I would just do my live show, and that was it. And then he told me, I can't go. You're not going to have a booth. And can you handle the podcast stage? I'm like, what? Wait, what's going on? And then my co-host for my show at the time, I was like, hey, there's a situation. He's like, well, I'm not going then. I was like, well, F you. And that's kind of the beginning of the end of that show too. So I went, I just went for a sec, and then I'm like, okay, how do we make this awesome? So I saw the list. There was 3 whole podcasts signed up for that weekend. I was like, oh, and I wasn't going to be able to do mine because my co-host didn't come. So I decided that thing to do was talk to some vendors like artists and cosplayers and things like that. And like, why don't you come up and let's talk about your stuff, and you'll be on a podcast. Blah, blah, blah. Well, then I got there and they didn't have anything to record the podcast. So it was literally just noise. It was just noise that came off the stage. But I was upfront with the people, like, come up here. It's not going to be recorded. I'll try to get you back someday. And every single person I had on that has been on the Brandon Peters show. So it was a couple of years later, but I got him on there. But I met a lot of people. I learned a lot from, like, I have a real soft spot for PopCon Fort Wayne, just because I did a lot of work there, and like got there, and Carl, the owner of PopCon, was like, I was stunned. There was something going on there every second I look. I'm like, yeah, there's only 3 podcasts stand up. I had a stand up comic from Fort Wayne come up. I had an author come up. I had a author / comic book writer or artist come up. I had the cosplayer people come like, and I just had, and Barry Bostwick wanted to come up, but he did not. He's like, next time we do this, Brandon, work on. I'm like, all right. Cause they had like, it was the celebrity guests there were, I mean, I know people were wanting like talking about guests at Louisville back last year. And so I thought they had good ones this year, but like PopCon Fort Wayne debuted with Barry Bostwick, Bush Patrick, who was Eddie Munster on the original Munsters, and like the voice of Ezra Bridger on Star Wars Rebels. And there's some other voice actors I'm not familiar with, but I'm like, that was what we had to launch that one. But I think both those Louisville shows launched a bit better, but much better people wise than that. But I learned a lot about that one, and that's what the filler usually is I find an artist or somebody, come up, talk about their stuff for at least 30, 40 minutes if we can. And there's something going on.
That's so cool because that's kind of been the premise of our whole show lately. At least with any of the guests that we have, is just trying to showcase their craft. We like to say,
yeah.
Oh, an improver, a wrestler, a musician. There's a local art festival, like Chalk Art Festival, that happens here in Louisville, via Calor. Talked to the organizer. We've talked to the artists that are doing it. So it's really cool that that's how you kind of just decided to fill the space and the time. You know, I think that's awesome. And it's awesome that you, even though you weren't able to record those episodes with those guys, you know, the first time you brought them back.
Yep.
Testament to character.
That was a goal when I started my new show. When I did that, I was like, I'm going to get all those people from Fort Wayne PopCon and have them on my show. And my thing was like, who doesn't get to be heard from at these? Like, who would, you know, because, you know, the celebrities get panels, Q&As, like some people sign up for their workshops and stuff, but who doesn't get the interviews and stuff? And I've always tried to, because I typically do an hour each day of my own stuff on the live podcast stage. And I've typically tried to incorporate that still to this day on a couple of the recordings, if I can.
Some of the celebrities that come in, you know, they get news coverage.
Mm-hmm.
Giving the light to people, right, is even if somebody does take the time, like in news organizations or artists or anything, you get like 5 minutes. You don't really get a feel for 30,
and then
40
you add
minutes.
it to the montage and you don't get the audio.
Exactly.
That's what you get in there.
Clips, right?
Exactly. So that's awesome. I guess this is my last question about PopCon. How old is PopCon? You said you've been involved for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't. I was just gonna say. So is it only been like a couple here in Louisville? It's just mostly been an indie last couple years.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So I believe PopCon's over 10 years old. It's had more shows than that, but Louisville, they had one last year and they have one this year. And then there was in 2018, they had PopCon Fort Wayne. And then during the pandemic, they did virtual PopCon because PopCon was supposed to be in the end of June that year and had to get wiped. So they did virtual PopCon a couple weeks later. But then it returned in 2021. And then luckily, because it returned, and then it was going to be masked. And then they like took down the mask ordinance. It was like, okay, they had PopCon. And the next weekend there was a new variant and everybody had to mask back up. So we just got it right in that little window.
Yes.
and it was just like, oh, and everybody was like, oh my gosh, this is great. And you know, people still come masked because, you know, it's up to your own comfort level. Right. And so it was interesting. Like we had that, it felt great, free, and then it was bad. There was like the Delta variant was next. It was like, ow! Like, well, we got in there real quick.
I mean, half the
cost didn't spread it, but we didn't know.
Half the cosplayers probably had masks on anyway. So
right. Yeah. So
wow.
but yeah, over 10 years old. And and yes, still going. And yeah, just trying to get bigger, growing. I know the growth chart for PopCon, where PopCon is now, is on track. I think they've said it's like further along than Gen Con was at this age at Gen Con. So that's pretty cool too. So yeah.
What's the have they announced when the Indie PopCon is going to be for next year or?
Yeah, Indie PopCon is the end of June next year. It is the let me make sure I get the dates right. It is June 27th, 28th, and 29th. That's when it will be.
Awesome. Are you coming
And you
back
guys
to
are
Louisville?
welcome to come up. Check it out.
We'd
Make
love
that
to.
trip.
Are you planning on coming back to Louisville next year too?
I currently don't know of that. There's always planning. And I'll know when they make a decision or something like that. But right now, I don't know of when or if there's another Louisville one. But I'll let you know as soon as I do.
That'd be awesome. Yeah.
Mhm.
Whether we are or aren't on the stage, would definitely like to make it.
Yeah.
My daughter was kind of bummed because I told her there would be people dressed up, and she had on her little unicorn headband, but she didn't have on the whole costume. I'm like, next year we'll get you a whole costume, maybe. So
just build it step by step. I did like so we had it at the Exposition Center in 2023. Yeah. I did like it being in the middle of the downtown personally better. I don't know how the local community felt about that, but I like being in the middle of stuff rather than kind of just wherever. And that was, I mean, to me, like when you're at a convention or people who travel to go from out of town to these, like it's in the middle of civilization rather than on the outside. The other building was big, nice, and everything like that, but it gives you the ability, being downtown, to come and go easier than having to drive all the way deep into a parking lot, go into this thing, and you leave and you come and you're like, I don't want to go back. Yep. PopCon likes people to be able to come and go as they want. When get your pass, you come and go as you want. Like, I gotta go eat lunch. I don't want to eat at the convention center, so go out, eat somewhere nice, come back and stuff. And I felt like it that gave that ability a lot better downtown.
Absolutely, yeah. I thought the location was really cool. The International Convention Center, right, is where it was this year. Kentucky International Convention Center, and they make it really easy when you go. Like, there's parking garages on either side of the building. Just walk out the garage, walk down the road of maybe a block, and there you are.
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned food and stuff. Yeah, when we left, we went and got pizza at a place that was right there. So it was definitely a really cool. I thought it was perfect.
Yeah. No, like I was much more pleased because like with the Exposition Center, when you were right around, it was like Mexican places and pizza. That was like all that was there. And then one night, it was me and some people like, hey, found an Italian place. We're going to get takeout from there, go back to the hotel, chill. I'm like, all right, let's go. And we went, and the Italian place was literally inside the Mexican restaurant.
Wow.
Like, it was like a V, and you went in through the Mexican restaurant over here, and you probably could have got like an enchilada and like ravioli on the same plate if you wanted. But like, it was like, wow, you just cannot escape this. Like,
that is crazy.
It was crazy. So of course there's McDonald's and stuff like that, but I'm like, I want to eat something like local when I'm out of town,
Yeah, you can get McDonald's anytime, anywhere. Yeah.
Like, I want to know what your pizza tastes like. Where's your best burger? Like, those are the things I might eat that same eat at home. But I usually like to eat what's like cool there. And I didn't get to. I wanted to go check out Kaiju, which is his bar there. I just was too worn out to like get in my car and drive. 15, only like 15 minutes away, but I was like, I'm just tired after those shows. So yeah.
Oh, I believe it. Those are got to be long days, and you're staying moving, staying organizing. You got so much going on. I believe it. It's cool that you just get out and support the local businesses anyways with the stuff. I think that's awesome. Yeah. That's something that we also try to highlight on our show as local businesses,
And if I wasn't such an old codger, I'd go to like a local bar to see a local band, but I want to be in quiet and hear people talk when I'm trying. So
hey,
I would do that.
I completely.
Yeah.
So this is kind of the last question overall that I have. I don't know if Jack will have anything else, but with the film, being in the reviews and obviously an avid lover of just all things film, podcast is obviously a bit of production. You got audio, you do a element. Have you ever thought about trying to direct or produce movies or anything, or have you done that?
That's a young man's game. Yeah, that was my goal in life from a kid. And I did it. I like to say I did it before it was cool because I was made fun of, picked on because I was my teen years were in the 90s, and I would make movies with my VHS camcorder, editing 2 decks, tapes and stuff. And there was a thing in high school, they had a thing called the Media Fair, which is like a national competition for that stuff. And in the state of Indiana, I scored record scores both years I did it. But it was weird because I would do really well at regionals. So there's like a regional competition, state competition, national. And a regional, I would always do really well because the regional judges would be like people in the industry people, news station people, things like that. And so awesome, do great. Then you go to the state competition and the judge would be like a gym teacher and the home economics teacher.
Oh, wow.
And so everything that always wins at the state level is like my year in volleyball, memories of my senior year.
Yeah.
And the year, so here's a funny side note. My junior year, I made this film called Blinded by Rage. And we started shooting it in 1998 and the production went over into 99. And the media fair was in like March or April. April, March. You'll know I can look this up when I tell you what it is. So we made this movie and it was about the governor of the state was coming to give a speech at a high school because we could use our high school to shoot at. And then these terrorists were there and they switched spots with the janitors and they kidnapped the governor and blah, blah, this whole thing and had shootouts and stuff. And we were like, it was awesome.
That's like a blockbuster.
It sounds awesome.
We did really good at regional. Scored the highest they'd ever had by a mile. So excited. Everybody loved it. The week of the state competition, Columbine happened.
Oh, no.
So we went to state. I finished 9th. And my teacher was like, we're not even going. We are not. I was like, no, I will write a letter. I will read that letter before we show it. And then we're taking it. I didn't waste all this time to just. And yeah, I did it, but and then I was then informed at school. I just my rep, my teachers who repped me for this took me out of a class one day and were like, hey, can you just behave the rest of the school year best you can? I'm like, what? They're like, the teachers are worried that you're going to Columbine watch basically because I made that movie. So yeah, and I was really proud of that thing and just crushed when that happened. Yeah. So Columbine happened affected so many people. No, just kidding. Much worse things happen to people than me. But it hit me and I was like, crap. And then the next year I was advised because it was my senior year. My production crew was me and 3 other juniors or 3 seniors, and I was a junior. And then I was a senior the next year, and I was by myself. And he's like, please make a comedy. Please. And I was like, and I tried to write a comedy, and comedy's so hard because you don't know what people are laughing. And I decided I was going to bed one night and I had this idea in my head and I was like, I have to do this one. And it included a gun in it. But when the character pulled the gun out, someone said, it was like these spies went on a mission. They weren't supposed to have weapons and one pulled the gun out. And the person goes, hey, you're not supposed to. And the person goes, desperate measures. And I was like, that was my note to my teacher saying, sorry, I can't, I had to. But no. And then I went to I went to College of Ball State University for telecommunications. I went out to Los Angeles to try my hand at movie making and stuff like that. And I found out a lot about myself. Not a starving artist. Not in the slightest. I worked on things. Never directed anything while I was out there. I got killed in a slasher movie. I was really happy about that. It's called Soul Killer. Don't know if you'll enjoy it or not, but I got killed during a party scene, this Hawaiian shirt party scene. I did sound for it, and then the director wrote me getting killed for a scene, so that was kind of nice. And then I worked on some low budget things, and I was a background actor in Rocky Balboa, the Rocky movie. Background actor in The Hangover, and I did some other things, and there's weird things that I did that I'm like, oh yeah, I did work on that. Yeah, like I forget that I did. Like I did a pilot episode for a show that was like supposed to be like unsolved mysteries, but for like internet crimes and stuff. Totally forgot about that for the longest time. And I'm like, oh yeah, I did that. It was the guy who did this actor named David H. Lawrence the 17th, and he was I met him on another movie, and like I did that, and he ended up being on Lost in the final season. I noticed him. I was like, oh shoot. And then I friended him on LinkedIn a few years ago. He goes, do I know you? Yeah, dude, we did. And he's like, I don't remember ever. And he has no memory of this pilot.
The whole
and I'm like, dude, I wasn't at your house till 5 a.m. I remember in the middle of it, I was a smoker at the time. I went out to smoke a cigarette, and it's like 3 a.m. in Burbank, California. And this military cavalcade is coming through. And I swear, and me and the DP were out there. We're like, that looks like not like plane part. Like, I think we saw like a UFO being transported in the middle of the night or something, but we were like,
Wow.
Like parts of, they're like, what the hell is all this? It was nuts. Or maybe they were shooting a movie or something or two,
Right.
Like it was the wildest thing that happened. But no, I tried it out there. And people ask me, like, I'm open to like cameos, helping other people out with movies. I am working on a series of Doctor Who documentaries, doing second unit stuff for the United Kingdom. Over here, they're doing some documentaries about some stuff that is in the U.S. For a group called Real Time Pictures. I've been doing some second unit stuff. My friend Russell McGee is directing them, just interviews, just shooting B-roll footage, helping him with the interviews, lighting, sound. I'm doing sound on that as well. Like those have been like fun because I'm a huge Doctor Who nerd, and that's like having my fingers on. Like one of them came out right before PopCon Louisville, and like seeing my name roll in the credits with a Dalek behind it, I'm like, oh, that's awesome. That's cool. So, and I have another one of those that comes out in I think a February or March. And then my next appearance is I'm a guest at Doctoberfest, which is a Doctor Who festival in Canby, Indiana, which is the home to Who North America, which is one of the largest merchandise distributor of Doctor Who in the United States. So they have me as a guest there. I do interviews with other guests and just there to meet people and stuff like that. It's a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Busy.
Yeah, staying busy.
Yeah.
That's really cool though. So your background really it's all film. It's much in every aspect of film.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. At least, people can definitely trust your opinion when you're doing your episodes, you've done nothing but film. So you said Doctoberfest is coming up. What else can people expect from you? I guess I know you said you just released a video on YouTube, right?
Yeah, I did a Nightmare on Elm Street review for the 4K, and then I've got an update that's after recording will probably be up at some point here tonight. Just finishing out the year, trying to take it easy the rest of the year, to be honest with you, and then getting back in the swing of things. We start when I do the Summer of series. We start recording in January for that, so they don't start dropping till May. So we start gearing up in January, just whatever's clever coming up and that I can think of. My mind's blanking. So just focusing on my podcast and get around things like that.
Awesome. Well, we'll definitely have everything. People can pretty much just find you anywhere.
Yes, if you just type my name, you get this football player that had like one good game at Michigan years ago, but it was such a magical moment that this guy hogs up my search. So,
well, I noticed like when I was looking you up too, you have the Brandon Peters show, but somebody has a Brandon Peters podcast.
Yeah, then that's cheap. Come up with something else.
It doesn't seem like there's that many episodes. I don't know how old it is. I was looking at it at first. I'm like, I don't think this is the right guy. I was like, no, it's the Peters show. I had to find the right one.
For sure, yeah. Yeah, no, I didn't know there were so many people who shared my namesake till like the last few years. Like, get over yourselves. I am number one.
Exactly. That's funny. Well, I don't have anything else. We've taken up enough of your time, I think. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been
You're
an
welcome.
absolute pleasure learning more about you, your whole journey, and what you do. Awesome. Do you have anything else?
Thank you.
No, we just
Appreciate
really
it.
appreciate it, Brennan. Like, can't wait till next time.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, next time, setting it up. I love it.
Exactly. Well, I guess with that, we'll go ahead and end it out unless you have anything you want to add.
Yeah, if you're looking to follow, like, my socials is at Brandon4KUHD, and I have a YouTube channel, the Brand Peters Show, and the podcast is anywhere you can find podcasts. It's pretty easy. You don't even have to follow me; just listen. That's all that matters.
Exactly. Well, I guess with that, we'll go ahead and end it off, and we will see everybody next time.
They're off in the Kentucky Derby.
Interest of the greater good for me to smoke a joint and calm down.
I am the greatest. He'll fall an 8 to prove that I'm great. And if he keeps talking jive, I'm gonna cut it to 5.